Understanding People Part 9. Let's get into it. This one's on individuation, and this is really a process that's so important. In Jungian psychology, it's really revered in that it's a very important long-term process that you do in order to integrate and bring out your true self. The actual self is when you integrate the things you know about yourself consciously, like your ego, persona, things like that, and then the subconscious aspects like your shadow and your male and feminine energies. And this may sound complicated and all that and kind of, whoa, like that sounds really difficult. This is pretty much the crux of what people are on this planet for. You're not on this planet to just work and follow all the trends and things like that. Individuation is a process people go into, whether they know about it or not, in that they discover themselves, they discover why they're here on this planet, they discover their purpose, and it's so needed because when you enter this world, right, you're born into your mom and your dad, and you follow their rules, and you know you're socialized and you're integrated into society, and this is important, right? You gotta understand how things work and things like that. But at a certain point, if you look at teenagers, for example, they get to a point where they want to kind of branch out on their own. Maybe they get a little bit rebellious. Maybe they start dressing a little out there, right? They do this because they want to discover who they actually are. Up until age 14, 13, they were just following their parents because, you know, the parents providing food, shelter, love, which is needed as when you're a child. But as you get older, you're like, who am I in this body? This is like the beginning stages of that individuation process where you're separating yourself from your parents. You're just separating yourself from family a bit, and you're discovering who you are. Now, certain people, they may fall into certain traps. Maybe they start hanging out with the wrong crowd because they just want to go on the exact opposite spectrum of how they were raised, just because they felt shackled in that way. They felt shackled acting this certain way, maybe, for example, good, and now they want to act bad because, you know, they feel like they won't be shackled when they act bad. First, before I get really into individuation, how everyone in society is kind of what people are going for. A lot of people are going for. You have to understand kind of how, you know, psychologists like Carl Jung kind of set up this dynamic. So, for example, you start with the persona, which is how you act in front of everybody. So, if I meet you on the street, you're giving me your persona. It's the image, the mask you give out to everybody. And then next, you have the ego, that self-image of yourself, who you are as a person, who you think you are as a person. I'll get into the self last, but next, in the subconscious, so this is kind of the conscious area of you. Now, there's certain subconscious things that have to do with your ego, but for the most part, your ego is a conscious choice. When we get into the subconscious category or the unconscious category, you get into the shadow. So these are elements of you, I've made multiple videos on this, that are unconscious, that if you pushed away, they can be good or bad, that you're just unaware of, that do exist and do control parts of your life without you even knowing it. And of course, you know, you have the anima and animus, which is your masculine and feminine polarities. And then you kind of wrap it all up with the self, which integrates your conscious aspects and your subconscious aspects as your true self. Individuation is the process of integrating all of this into one, because we are all so unique. No one has the same spiritual journey. No one has the same self-development journey. Nobody relates to their psychological development the same. Nobody has this exact same psychological development. You've had different kinds of upbringings, different life experiences. So this is why everybody's journeys are so unique. And in the individuation process, when you start to understand how you present yourself to the world, you understand your ego, how you are, who you think you are. You understand your shadow. You do the shadow work to understand that. Naturally, when you start understanding this, because you're a unique person, these aspects are unique to you. You naturally start individuating from society, the norm, right? You become your true self, and this brings more life fulfillment because you can understand why you get emotional, why you get upset, why you get happy, what your life purpose is, the types of people you like to date, the people you don't like to date, the authentic desires that you truly have. Because you can have desires, but they're not authentic to you. It's just programming that you were given that you think that you want, but you actually don't want. So this is something to be understood. The reason why people want to be different, there's this desire to be different. Maybe this desire to dress more edgy and different and listen to certain types of music because it differentiates yourselves from others, and you kind of create this. In a way, it's a bit of a more shallow individuation process, but it still is part of the process. You're creating that separateness from other people, and you're creating this unique ego. So, for example, oftentimes people like a certain artist or musician when the artist and musician is kind of like small, like not that big or well known, and the person's a huge fan of them. And then as that musician kind of gets bigger and more popular, the person isn't, he starts to say, oh, I liked his older music a bit more than his newer stuff. Now, there are times where artists their older material is more fire, it's better, it's more enjoyable. But a lot of times that's not the case. A lot of times the music isn't that much different. The reason why that person says, I like their old music different, I like their old music more, is because more people are gravitating towards that new music. That person that enjoys that artist doesn't feel as unique anymore. That person that enjoys that artist feels as though he or she's falling into that crowd that likes that artist more. So he or she's gonna say, I like their old music more. That way, they're like, see, I'm different. I still like them, but I was around when their old music was here, and right now, I still enjoy that music. So they feel like, yeah, I'm still a fan, but I'm different because I enjoy their old music. This is just a slight example of that kind of individuation process, and this goes across all sorts of stuff. Now, going back to individuation as a whole, a difficulty of this can be anxiety. It can really cause anxiety when you're in a way, because you're really going against the grain. Now, you're being authentic to yourself, which is the goal here, but many won't view it that way. People won't view it that way. Maybe you see someone kind of change all of a sudden, and you view it as, oh, what's wrong with them? What's wrong with him? There's not necessarily something wrong with them. It may be how you're viewing it. That person may be going through an individuation process where they're discovering the hidden aspects of themselves. Now, when you talk to them, they're not going to be like, yeah, I'm just going through an individuation process right now. I'm really understanding my male and female energies, and just the persona I give out to the world, and how my ego gets in the way a lot of times. They're not gonna say that. No, they might not even know how to explain it. But when you understand how individuation works, you may be able to pinpoint what's going on with that person. Now, the reason why it causes anxiety, like I said, is because you're going against the grain, and you may get backlash. You may get people saying, oh, what's gotten into you, and things like that. It's not what's gotten into that person, it's what's always been there that has just been discovered. I'm gonna say that again. It's not what has gotten into that person, it's what has always been there but just gotten discovered. This is why it's very important to find like-minded people that are also in their own individuation process. Maybe a community of people that are consistently working on themselves, and that you can also learn from. Because the average person, yes, there is a desire to be individual and different, but there's still that desire to conform, and we have these social obligations and these cognitive biases that cause us to kind of just conform all the time. It's very key to find friends that are also doing this kind of work. People that don't individuate throughout their life, they run into a lot of problems. They run into things like midlife crises. They may lack purpose. They may be drifting through life, just not knowing what they're doing or where they're going. They may need constant stimulation just to not be bored, or things like that. They may need validation all the time. They may have bad, decision-making skills because they haven't understood where these decisions are coming from. You should view it like this. When you're born, right? Into whatever family you're born into, whatever culture, country, and things like that. You are given certain programming, and you are given certain defaults of that society. These are the defaults. This is how you should be. But think of it as like a video game created character. You don't create a character in a video game and just press default, 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 default. That'd be like a bland character. That'd be just like a naked character. Like it's just nothing. It's just bland. But that's because you just let default happen. Just whatever. You'll just let the regular stuff happen. What you need to do is you need to customize it to your own liking. But when you customize it to your own liking, it's not just customizing it to your own liking. It's going into the psyche of that character and then customizing it to how it truly is. That's where the fulfillment comes in when it comes to individuation. It's the psychological work plus the customization that really brings that fulfillment of, I know who I am, I know how I act, I know what I want to do with my life, I know how I want to be, and things like that. It's so important to know this. It's one of the most real videos I ever made, because if you understand this, like, and you implement it, you can see how profound it can be for your life. So understanding people part 9 is individuation, the process by which we separate ourselves from others and we discover who we truly are, and we customize ourselves, or we go on a journey, an individual journey towards that ideal true self. And along the way, you know, it's not like we're just on our own all the time. No, not quite. We're still in society. We still have friends. We still go out. We still have fun. We still do all this stuff, but we understand exactly where it's coming from, why we're doing it, and things like that. So I'm gonna end this video with a quote from Invisible Influence by Jonah Berger. Okay. He kind of gives us, I like this example, like clothes and things like that. Clothes are not just clothes, they're a statement of who we are. And how better to express independence than to choose something different. Imagine showing up to a party wearing the same dress as another guest, or going to work one day and finding yourself wearing the exact same tie as your boss. Most people would be a good sport about it and laugh, but they'd also probably be embarrassed or find the situation mildly uncomfortable. Because whether due to one person or 1 million, feeling overly similar to others often generates a negative emotional reaction. It makes people upset or uneasy. So we choose things that create a sense of difference, brands that no one else has heard of, or apartments in areas that have yet to become gentrified. Limited edition t-shirts or vacations to obscure Polynesian islands that are only reachable by outrigger canoe. He uses the process of how someone becomes an individual in the aspect of clothes, how someone dresses and things like that, to be different. I find that within myself. So that's another like smaller example of individuation. Guys, I hope this video was very valuable for you, and if it was, feel free to click the like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe. Also leave a comment of any, you know, of the current individuation process you're going through, right? I want to hear about that. I want to hear what changes are you finding that you're making in your life that are more authentic to you and that you're feeling more fulfilled with. Let me know in the comment below. Also, if you want to schedule a one-on-one consultation with me, I'm doing them now. I know, right? Finally. The link is in the description below. You can click that, and I'd love to speak with you. Guys, take care of yourselves. Have a good one. Peace.